Hello. While I'm recording this, we have a children's activity back here happening in our facilities. And so there's going to be some background noise today, but I don't apologize for that because it's exciting to have kids around the building and to be having fun and bringing their friends and hopefully have an opportunity to hear the gospel. Now, as I start, let me read you a poem called Forgive Me When I Whine. Today upon a bus, I saw a lovely maid with golden hair. I envied her. She seemed so happy, and how I wished I was so fair. When suddenly she rose to leave, I saw her hobble down the aisle. She had one foot and wore a crutch, but as she passed, a smile. Oh God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 feet. The world is mine. And when I stopped to buy some sweets, the lad who served me had such charm. He seemed so radiant with good cheer. His manner was so kind and warm. I said, it's nice to deal with you. Such courtesy I seldom find. He turned and said, oh, thank you, sir. And then I saw that he was blind. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 eyes. The world is mine. Then when walking down the street, I saw a child with eyes of blue. He stood and watched the others play. It seemed he knew not what to do. I stopped a moment. Then I said, why don't you join the others, dear? He looked ahead without a word. And then I knew he could not hear. Oh God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 ears. The world is mine. With feet to take me where I'd go, and eyes to see the sunset's glow, with ears to hear what I would know, I am blessed indeed. The world is mine. Oh God, forgive me when I whine. Today, our title is Appreciate the Opportunity. Our text is Luke 9:28 through 36. Let's start with an opportunity. Verse 28 says, and it came to pass about 8 days after these sayings, he took Peter and James and John and went up into a mountain to pray. And as he prayed, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistering. And behold, there talked with him 2 men, which were Moses and Elias, who appeared in glory and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem. 32 says, but Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men that stood with him. Now, being invited by Jesus to a private prayer meeting would be very awesome, but they didn't see it as that big of a thing. Now, why, you ask? Well, they fell asleep. Sleepy disciples seems to be a common problem for them, apparently. They did the same thing in the garden at Jesus' arrest. They were asleep. Jesus even said, can you not wait 1 hour with me? And, today we have the same problem sometimes in churches. Peter, James, and John, those 3 guys, alone witnessed this. This isn't for everyone. You need to make sure you appreciate what you are allowed to be in with God. Not just everybody else or be jealous of what they get to or not get to do, but appreciate what you are allowed to do. Instead of complaining that you have to, remember to always focus on you get to. You don't just have to, you get to. You're doing it with God. Speaking of that, Irma Bombeck wrote in Red Book in 1992 about the estimated 1.5 million people that are living today with bouts of breast cancer. She said that every time that she forgets to feel grateful among them, she hears the 8-year-old Christina that she spoke with, who had cancer of the nervous system. When asked what she wanted for a birthday, she thought long and hard, and finally, here's what little Christina said. I don't know. I have 2 sticker books and a Cabbage Patch doll. I have everything. The kid's right. Perspective and appreciation go hand in hand. We have no appreciation because we lack perspective. Just to be with Jesus is an amazing gift. To be in a prayer meeting is awesome when you're with Jesus. But that wasn't just cool enough. He also showed them his glory. It says here that it was glistering. That Greek word means dazzling, brilliant, flashing light as lightning. They would use it as the word lightning. Reminds me of Exodus 33:18-23, and also in Revelation 2 and 3, where it's explained what Jehovah looks like when his glory, even a portion of it, is seen. Even here, he's clothed in this. That's pretty amazing. The one that makes light and is light is glistering light for them. Now it says there, Moses and Elijah, they represent the law and the prophets. Both foretold of the Messiah's death. It says here, decease in Luke. But that's our appreciation of an opportunity. An opportunity. What about our appreciation of, some understanding? Because just because they had an opportunity doesn't mean you fully comprehend or understand what you're going through. 33 says, and it came to pass as they departed from him, Peter said unto Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here, and let us make 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias, not knowing what he said. Now here, this is the key to why they did not appreciate their opportunity, because they didn't understand what was going down. No appreciation. Booths here, tabernacles. This is from the Feast of Tabernacles when they saw God, Old Testament. Peter suggesting that they stay there, because when they built those, they stayed there temporarily, because, to celebrate the opportunity to be with God. And so Peter is suggesting, hey, this is great. It's good for us to be here, he said. Let's stay here. It's also the greatest understatement of the Bible. Oh, it's good to be here. You think? Peter's also equating making a temple for another prophet. See, he's seeing Jesus as equal to Moses and Elijah. 3 of those, one for each of you. This is a major problem. Not knowing what he said is what it says there. And boy, that is exactly the truth. He didn't know what he was talking about. Sometimes we have no idea what we're talking about when it comes to God. We try to go a little above and beyond what the Bible says. Why? It is a clear revelation of who he is. Stick with that. We can get it all wrong when we get off of that. And that's exactly what Peter did here. He really overstepped. Whenever in doubt, remember this. He's even bigger than that. Almost always when we try to associate something to God, we really cut it short because he's way bigger than that. Even Peter here, oh, let's build a tabernacle for you. And you can't house a God in a tabernacle, I'm telling you. Old Testament learned that. So we have here an opportunity. We have an understanding. Now let's talk appreciation about a command. Verse 34 then starts off, while he thus spake, there came a cloud and overshadowed them. So while Peter's talking, immediately this happened. And they feared as they entered into the cloud. So all of a sudden just got pulled over with this fog. And there came a voice out of the cloud saying, this is my beloved son, hear him. God speaks directly to them out of a bright cloud. Just when you think it couldn't get even more amazing, it says, came a voice out of the cloud. God said, this is my beloved son. Did you get that? He's my son, not just a prophet. He's my son. He also told them, listen to him, hear him. My beloved son, hear him. That word listen, hear him, means more than simply one hearing the person with his own ears. Is emphasizing to yield, to hear and obey, to hear in the sense of obey the one present or speaking. Not just hear, but listen to this so you can do this. And there we find the problem and the answer. That we not only observe, be present, or even know what we are to obey when we're told, but the fact of the matter is, are we listening so we can do what he told us to do? We don't appreciate the opportunity that's put before us to be with Christ on a given Sunday around the reading of the Word and a prayer meeting with another brother or sister in Christ, or when somebody talks about heaven or has doubts or fears, or in discipleship, or in a Sunday school class or a small group, or when the invitation is given at your church, or when you've heard a song and God's pricked your heart. We don't appreciate God with us, so move on. When God said, that's my son, hear him. Jesus isn't just a prophet, and there's no ordinary book we hold in our hands, the Bible. We're to obey what he says. It's much like love Jesus spoke of. If a man loved me, he would keep my words. That's what he said. It isn't good enough to say you love him. He said, prove it by your actions. In this case, it doesn't really matter that we simply say we appreciate. Prove it by our actions. Obedience is the attributive action of the kingdom. After all, he is the king, and you're to obey your king. Now, isn't he the king? Connecting verse 27 to this text, they're observing the kingdom now. So not many days, and some of y'all are going to see the kingdom. So what is the kingdom all about? There's a lot. But it boils down to this: Jesus and his kingship. Jesus is the king of his kingdom. It's a spiritual kingdom. Who is the kingdom for? It's us. Us to follow our king and to bring others into it. What is the imperative attached to the kingdom? Well, the Father said, listen. Listen to the Son, specifically in order to obey him. He's your king. Listen so you can obey him accurately. Can you see the sheer lack of appreciation? When you're involved in a movement of God, he's with you. And then this happens. If we lack appreciation, we should expect him to move on to somebody else or some other place. Thank God for second chances and still wanting to be with us. That's what we see in this text. They came off the mountain and they moved right along into ministry some more. We are most miserable if we forget who we work for. It is gratitude that prompted an old man to visit an old broken pier on the eastern seacoast of Florida. Every Friday night until his death, 1973, he would return walking slowly and slightly stooped with a large bucket of shrimp. The seagulls would flock to this old man and he would feed them by the bucket. Many years before, October of 1942, Captain Eddie Rickenbacker was on a mission on a B-17 to deliver an important message to General Douglas MacArthur in New Guinea. But there was an unexpected detour, which would hurl the captain and his crew into a most harrowing adventure. Somewhere over the South Pacific, the Flying Fortress became lost beyond radio contact. Fuel ran low, so the men ditched the plane in the ocean. And for nearly a month, Captain Eddie and his companions would fight the water and the weather and the scorching sun. A month? How could you die? Well, they spent many sleepless nights recoiling as giant sharks rammed the rafts, and the largest raft was like 9 by 5, and the sharks get 10, 12 foot long. But of all their enemies at sea, one proved formidable, and that's what you're probably thinking: starvation. A month? 8 days out, their rations were long gone or destroyed by the salt water. It would take a miracle to sustain them at this point, and a miracle did occur. Through much prayer and begging out God, Captain Eddie's own words, Cherry, that was the B-17 pilot, Captain William Cherry, read the service that afternoon, he said, and they finished with prayer every day for deliverance, and they sang a hymn of praise. There was some talk, but it tapered off in the oppressive heat. He said, Captain Eddie says, with my hat pulled down over my eyes to keep out the glare, I dozed off, and then I woke up, and something, he said, landed on his head. I knew that it was a seagull. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. Everyone else knew too. No one said a word in the life rafts. But peering out from under his hat brim, without moving his head, he could see the expression of their faces. They were staring at the goal. The goal meant food. If I could catch it, he thought. And the rest, as Paul Harvey would say, is the rest of the story. Captain Eddie caught the goal. It was eaten. Its intestines, though, were used to bait other fish and to catch them. And the survivors were sustained on one lone seagull for a month. Uncharacteristically 100 miles away from land, this seagull landed on this guy's head. It offered itself as a sacrifice for their survival. You know that Captain Eddie made it, and you also know that he never forgot, because every Friday evening, as I said, about sunset, on a stretch of Florida seacoast, you can see the old man walking, white-haired, bushy-eyebrow, slightly bent with a bucket full of shrimp, feeding the seagulls, to remember that one, long ago, that gave itself without a struggle like manna in the wilderness. Jesus willingly gave himself for us. But he was no ordinary sacrifice. He was the King of all kings, the great I am, the ruler of the universe. He gave all that up for me. What have I sacrificed for him? In what way have I shown my appreciation for him, my listening obedience? In what ways have I dismissed, disregarded, or even shown disdain for his opportunities and blessings? As Peter, in what ways have I lowered his majesty in my life? It's something to think about, isn't it? It's also something to act upon. What is the Spirit prompting you to do right now? In the words of the Father, it's my beloved Son. Hear him. I love you guys.